Greetings, Exiles, and welcome back. My name is Jeezy, and you probably already know where this is going. Why harvest again? Well, my previous two harvest strategies, while very successful at generating currency over a long period of time, had very high investment costs. I wanted to see what I could get away with a low investment harvest strategy, and that's where this one comes in. I've prepared a graphic which demonstrates how this strategy differs from the previous two. As always, I'll be presenting the raw data later in the video, so if you want a more detailed breakdown, stick around. Starting with the topic of today's video, the low investment harvest strategy, I was able to keep costs quite low. It cost me just over 2 divines in order to run 30 maps. The profits far exceeded my expectations. I ended up with over 16 divines in total profit, with an average of 0.5 divines per map, so not the most efficient strategy you're going to run into, but the return on investment was massive. For every 1 divine I spent, I pulled out 8. Just to have a bit of a point of comparison, the cornucopia boss farming strategy had a total cost of almost 12 divines and didn't pull out that much more than the low investment one did. The average return per map was a little bit higher, so it may be a little bit more time efficient, but the return on investment was dismal in comparison. And finally, here's the data from my previous Imbued crop rotation farming strategy, where the investment was incredibly high, 22.5 divines, but the profit was also almost double both of the other strategies, at 31.5 divines. The average profit per map was over a divine, so very time efficient, with the average return on investment being slightly lower than even the cornucopia strategy. The key thing you should be taking away from this data is that the low investment harvest strategy is a great way to turn a small amount of currency into a relatively large amount of currency safely, but not that efficiently. Whereas the imbued crop rotation strategy is a great way to turn a already large amount of currency into a potentially much larger amount of currency, although it is not as safe, but it is much more efficient. If you're interested in either of those two guides, I'll be linking them down in the description below as well. Otherwise, let's get on with the low investment harvest strategy. Now, what kind of scarabs am I using to make this strategy work? Well, firstly, the Harvest Scarab of Doubling, which provides double life force from slain harvest monsters, but makes them twice as tanky. Second, as suggested in a previous comment, I'm trying out the Scarab of Monstrous Lineage. The idea with this one is that because it increases the amount of magic monsters in your map, it will increase the number of Eldritch Altars we find, and therefore give us an extra quantity bonus for hardly any cost. Next, I'm running the Cartography Scarab of Corruption. I wanted to run 8 mod corrupted tier 16s for all of my maps, and this makes it a lot easier to do, as it doesn't chance them rolling into other maps when I corrupt them. And lastly, just a good old Cartography Scarab. The reason for this one is it's very cheap to just toss in, and it will give you a little bit more agency over what 8 mod maps you run. A lot of the ones that I did drop during the data acquisition were completely unrunnable, and I just had to set them aside or bulk sell them. And it does also slightly increase the chances of a tier 16 dropping being converted to a tier 17, so that's nice too. The maps I'm running are once again Jungle Valleys. This is very important as the boss does not spawn until you enter her chamber, which means that the Eldritch Altars that you find will not affect the boss. They will only have mods that affect either Eldritch minions or the player. These player gains Eldritch Altar mods are the ones where we can find extra quantity bonuses. Just be sure you know your limits and you don't accidentally take an altar that completely bricks your build. Or do, I'm not your dad. Altars like this are ideal, as they don't have any completely build disabling mods, they just make the map a bit harder. Also, I swear I'm not staging these, it happens every time I record. This is the first Brother's Gift I've found all League. This is getting a little silly. Once you've slain all of the map's monsters, and collected every altar you can get your hands on, it's time to enter the harvest. And if the map was simple, it only gets simpler from here. All you need to do is know which of the juices is more valuable. At this point in the league, and probably for the rest of Necropolis, it will be yellow by almost double. Something you might notice as soon as I enter this harvest is that unlike the previous two strategies, it's not very exciting or flashy. You won't be fighting a large number of rares, you won't be fighting any bosses, which does make the strategy much safer and more reliable, but you won't ever be leaving a map with a ridiculously large amount of life force, and as I only encountered 2 naturally spawning bosses over my 30 maps, I did not drop any Sacred Blossoms. And 1600 yellow juice isn't a lot to walk away with, but my initial investment per map was less than 10c, and this yellow juice alone goes for about 55 chaos. So it's a great way to multiply a small amount of currency, and there will always be buyers for yellow juice. And if the strategy really isn't exciting enough for you, maybe you could just install OBS and start recording. That's apparently how I drop all of my valuable loot after all. And now we come to the spreadsheet that I've been using to track all of my data. Sorry if you were trying to get access to the last one, I realized that I messed up permissions. I'm going to make sure that this one is actually accessible to view for anybody who would like to delve deeper into the numbers, or maybe even just use the template for yourselves. Just make a copy. Just a word of warning for you, if you're planning on accessing the spreadsheet, I do use a dark mode Chrome Web Store extension called Dark Reader to make the spreadsheet look like that. If you open it without such extension, you will be flashbanged. So for all of you out there who like accessing spreadsheets regularly and also have eyes, I would definitely recommend checking out Dark Reader. I'll be placing that link in the description for anybody who's interested. Anyway, for anybody who's unfamiliar with this layout, on the left-hand side I have my costs for each of the Scarabs that I used, with expenses per 10 maps. Middle is just to track my gains, and returns on the right-hand side shows profit per 10 maps, as well as overall exchange rate. I sold all of my juice at the same time, so the exchange rate will be the same all the way down. You might notice that I'm not including the cost of my tier 16s, and that's because over the course of 30 maps, I dropped 74 additional tier 16s, so more than enough to sustain, even with some bad 8 mods dropped in there. And I'm not including the maps that I did drop in my returns. You might be able to net an extra divine or two out of this strategy if you're bulk selling your maps as well. The current exchange rate for 50 jungle valleys at the time of recording is about 1 divine, so just keep that in mind. I just didn't include it because I hate bulk selling maps. GGG, please give us the ability to control shift click maps into the trade window. Thank you. Down at the bottom here, I have a tally of my total expenses over the course of 30 maps. Very cheap. Once again, just over 2 divines. The number of maps run, my average cost per map, 0.07 divines, which comes out to about 8 chaos. Over on the right hand side, we have total profit, almost 17 divines. And over here, you'll see I've moved away from divine per hour as a metric, as I don't believe it's very useful. Everybody's going to be running this content at their own pace. Instead, I have return on investment as a percentage, which was over 800%, quite good. Average profit per map being 0.56 divines, which is just a little bit lower than the cornucopia data, but still okay, especially if you consider that this is a strategy designed for someone who has very little currency to invest up front. One other thing to note is that I did all of my trades in bulk for divines by searching for people who wanted life force. If you just let people come to you, you can probably get even better exchange rates than I did. I just wanted to get it off my hands. And now I just wanted to do a brief explanation of the Atlas passive tree. It's a pretty basic skeleton for harvest. The only major changes that I have made myself are that I've taken all of the chance for tier 1 through 15 maps to drop 1 tier higher, because I like occasionally seeing tier 17s in my maps. If you'd rather take that chance out, and you'd rather just invest it into something else, you totally can. We path by a lot of Scarab nodes, so you can certainly do that. I've taken all of the Necropolis nodes just because I still want to try and engage with the mechanic when I can, as well as still waiting for that Divine Lantern mod. Over here, reduced chance to grow blue plants, and reduced chance to grow purple plants, maxed out. We really want to be focusing on just yellow juice at this point in the league. All you really want is yellow juice, to the point where if you get a harvest without any yellows, you might even consider skipping it. Eldritch Influence here, you can definitely take this Eldritch Gateway here and just come and pick up the Exarch Influence if you'd rather. I prefer Eater, and it's closer. In here, we get some nice generic quantity that doesn't come with any additional difficulty scaling, as well as quantity. You get extra rarity, but what you really want for the juice scaling is quant. If you only want this strategy to specialize in farming life force, and let's say you don't care about Necropolis at all, you can drop those nodes and take the rest of the map modifier effect nodes up here, just to boost those map modifiers as well as the quantity bonus that they provide. And if for whatever reason you're deciding not to run corrupted 8 mod maps, pick up Chiseled Perfection here. The only reason I don't have it is because all of my maps dropped corrupted, so I was unable to chisel them. But keep in mind that the mounting modifiers node down here will not be as effective for you if you're not running 8 mod corrupted maps. If any of y'all are still here, I'd like to say thank you. If you enjoyed this video, and maybe you learned something, or you decide to try the strategy out for yourself, I would ask that you leave a like, maybe comment down below telling me your experience with it. And if this is the kind of content that you'd like to see more of, please consider subscribing. Y'all are all crazy. You pushed me over 90 subscribers just this morning, so thank you so much. More to come. Sorry this video is a little bit delayed. My partner was off for a week, so I was spending some time with her, but I will be back full force. Another Path of Exile video coming next week, for sure this time. And if you're really unable to wait that long, you can probably find me streaming over at ds_Jeezy. I'll be live there most weekdays, putting numbers into spreadsheets until my fingers are in pain. I'll be including all of the relevant information for this farming strategy down in the description below. I will also be including my Path of Building link in case you would like to give this build a try for yourself. It's a basic power charge stacking wander. Like I said earlier, I will also be linking the PoE planner link for the Atlas skill tree, as well as the spreadsheet link, which I will make sure is accessible this time, as well as that dark reader link I mentioned. Per recommendations from my lawyer, I just wanted to reiterate that if you do decide to open that spreadsheet link without a dark mode reader, it's on you if you require corrective surgery. Below that, I will be linking the channel of the creator of all of the music that you hear in this video. None of it is mine, it's all created by Vindsvept Fantasy Music. His catalog is extensive and fantastic, so please go check him out if you haven't already. As well as I will be listing all of the songs in order of appearance with timestamps in case you're interested in finding a specific song, because his current YouTube collection has over 200 individual pieces. And for those of you who are still here at the actual very end of the video, don't worry. I know why you're here. I'm Jeezy, and I'll see you in the next one.